Our next topic and discussion is about decoding risks and unlocking opportunities in a global perspective. We'll explore macroeconomic factors, credit perspectives, and investor views on market development. Given the rapidly changing economic climate, how will global trends impact investments? What role do credit market dynamics play in investment decisions? Welcome, Colin and Marie.
Thank you.
Nice having you back.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Are you having a good time here at Ori Business?
We always have a good time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
Nice. Colin, from a macro perspective, what would you say impact the financial markets the most right now?
Well, right now, as we sit here, I think we're all still digesting the news from Trump's Liberation Day, or the imposition of his new tariffs. And I think there's a couple of things just to point out here briefly. Firstly, tariffs are bad. Generally, we don't think they're going to bring thousands of manufacturing jobs back to the US. It is an extra cost that has to be borne by somebody somewhere, and often that might actually be the US consumer that ends up paying higher prices. But secondly, one of the big things over the first kind of quarter of this year has been the uncertainty around tariffs, and that uncertainty has been very damaging. So even if this serves as the basis for a little bit more clarity on what Trump wants to do and how, even though tariffs are bad, if that reduces the uncertainty, then maybe that might help a little bit. But clearly, market reactions today, equity markets are down, equity futures are down. This is not good news for the global economy.
No. As a rating agency, you evaluate opine and risks. However, risks are also opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, any policy choice you make, there will be winners and losers. And there are some potential winners here. If you're a Swedish company right now and you're competing with a US company in a third market, it's very likely that there will be tariffs placed on that US company because other countries, other regions are likely to reciprocate. They're likely to respond to Trump's tariffs. So you have an opportunity right now to go and grab market share from some US exporters. And this is where I think, we have to wait and see a bit about how the dynamics play out in terms of all of the different adjustment mechanisms that we know will work.
Yeah. Marie, you're talking to global investors in your role. What would you say are on top of their minds right now?
Yeah, well, well, the effects of, I would say, it's been on the agenda for a couple of months and more so, but really the effects of the tariffs, the domino on certain sectors, certain regions. So they focus on that. But from yesterday, it shifted a bit, and people have had a chance really to look into, okay, what's on top of our minds now. But I mean, there's certain sectors that are more affected than others, and investors are generally interested in that.
What sectors?
So, I mean, auto and pharmaceuticals is one, but then regions, how different regions respond to these tariffs.
Yeah.
So that's I would say the top of mind right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting that a lot of the tariffs look quite big in Asia Pacific, for example, but a lot of the trade growth within that region hasn't actually been with the US at all. It's more been about deepening trade links within that perspective, that region. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Exactly. So the questions investors asked a week ago might differ tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's yeah.
What's the view on from global investors when it comes to the Nordics and Sweden in particular, perhaps?
Well, as you point out, Sweden is quite good, even though we don't think like that sometimes. So investors do have focus in Sweden, but some of the areas they've been, well, not maybe concerned about, what they've looked at more in depth is real estate and household indebtedness. That's been a bit of focus for a while. Yeah, I'd say that's more or less the focus, because Sweden is still AAA rated. So as a whole, we're a quite good country in that essence. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, well, we'll see now with the tariffs if things change. Maybe very export focused industries could be more of interest in their view. So.
Yeah. So, Colin, last question. In a year from now, what do you think we will sit here and talk about? And maybe not talk about.
Bring
Well,
that crystal ball
mean-
now, Colin.
We're going to be talking about President Trump, right? Quite what aspect, I don't know. I mean, if this tariff regime sticks, then he may shift to more domestic priorities like immigration and some of the promises he's made there. But I think, you know, there are always potential upsides, even though it might not be what I would recognise as a kind of just and lasting peace. It would be lovely if we're not talking about war in Ukraine in a year's time. And maybe we won't get to something that everybody would agree with. That's always the nature of compromise. So I think we'll still be talking about him, but hopefully one or two other things maybe will have come to a head.
Yeah.
Geopolitics is actually very much on top of investors' minds as well. So
Yeah.
forgot to mention that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming here, and we'll see what we talk about in a year from now when we meet again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.